Hello and welcome to IP Study video lectures. Today we are going to discuss chapter number 19 of grade 8 social science. The chapter name is Judiciary. I am sure you all are familiar with this portrait. It is the Lady of Justice. The question comes, what exactly do we understand by justice? Justice is a very important ideal in a democratic society. Justice simply means fairness. If somebody has done something wrong, like breaking the law or harming another person, then that person must be held accountable for his or her actions. The job of judiciary is to punish that person. So we all know that our government has three main branches. Legislative is responsible for making the law. Executive is responsible for executing that law, enforcing it, and judiciary is responsible for punishing anyone who breaks the law, right? So judiciary is the third branch of the government. Now it is very important that judiciary is independent of executive and the legislature. Why? Just to ensure that justice is done properly. There is no influence of executive and legislature on the way justice is done. These are three separate functions of government and they should work independently to ensure a democratic setup. Now, the task of judiciary, if we see, it is mainly to protect the rights of citizens, to administer justice and freedom among the society, and resolve the disputes in the society according to the spirit of the Constitution. Now, Indian judicial system works with a network of courts. If we see, it is a pyramidal structure, as you can see in the picture, where the lower courts or the subordinate courts work at the bottom level. Then we have the high courts, and at the top we have the apex court of India, the Supreme Court. Now, this is why we call it a single integrated judiciary, right? Our judiciary is not like the Supreme Court, High Courts and the subordinate courts working independently. They all are integrated. It means that if we are not happy with the decision of a lower court, we can always go and appeal to a higher court, right? So if you are not satisfied with the decision of a subordinate court, you can go to the high court. If not satisfied with the decision of the high court, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. But yes, the decision of the Supreme Court is the final. It is the apex court of India and the highest judicial authority in our country. So yes, we have discussed about Supreme Court as the apex court and different high courts as well. Now, each of Indian state can have its own high court, but sometimes some states do share a high court. Examples like Punjab and Haryana, they have a common high court, and some other states like Goa does not have its high court. All the decisions are heard in the Mumbai court, right? And then of course we have the subordinate courts, which are different courts. There is a district and sessions court, a magistrate court, revenue courts also. They all come under this category of subordinate courts. Now, as we discussed before, that our judiciary is independent. An independent judiciary is important to ensure that justice is delivered properly. There is no interference of executive and the legislature. One important power of judiciary in India is that of judicial review. Now, it is very important to understand what is it. Judicial review is the power of the judiciary to interpret the Indian Constitution, and if it finds that a decision made by the executive or a law made by the parliament is against the spirit of the Indian Constitution, then it can say that this law is unconstitutional. It can declare that law void, right? So the power to interpret the Indian Constitution lies with judiciary, and if it says that the law is unconstitutional, then the concerned body has to revisit that law and fix it, right? So it it makes judiciary very powerful in our country, and in any democratic setup we want to keep a check on the ruling government and the parliament so that the rights of people can be protected. Judiciary does not do it for its own sake. Judiciary uses judicial review to protect the rights and the freedoms of the individual, the citizens of the country. Now, Parliament also has a check on judiciary. It is not like judiciary is all powerful and there is nobody above it. So, Parliament also controls the judiciary in some ways. For example, they can decide upon the salaries and allowances of the judges working in the Supreme Court and High Court. Of course, they cannot change these salaries when the term is ongoing, but yes, they can change the salaries and allowances of the judges. Also, the power to remove a judge, that process is called impeachment, that is also carried on in the Parliament of India. So we can see that in our country, in a democratic system like India, no organ is all powerful, whether it is legislature, executive or judiciary. They all have a system of check and balances where they are controlling each other in some way or the other. Now let us discuss about the different branches of the legal system. Here we are going to discuss about the civil and criminal law. So what are civil cases? What are criminal cases? Let us discuss about them. So a civil case is one which is against the private rights of an individual. Whereas when we talk about criminal case, it is against the entire community. Let's take example of a murder case and that of a normal property dispute, right? So the property dispute is involving only one or two people among whom the property case is there, right? But when you talk about a murder, now if there is a criminal in a society, that person is capable of murdering more than one person. So that is against the entire community. The threat is against the entire community, not just one or two individuals, right? So that is a criminal case. So robbery, murder, all the frauds, they are considered as criminal cases. But if you look at the civil cases, they are mostly about cases of breach of contract between businessmen or matrimony, marriages, divorces. These cases come under the civil code. Now, what is the remedy? What is the solution in case of civil cases? In case of civil cases, you can put fines on the person or you can inject that person. Injunction means that you are stopping or restricted the person from doing something, right? Whereas if you consider the criminal law, under criminal law, you can punish the person, you can put the person behind bars, and in most severe cases, you can give the person capital punishment, which means the person would be executed, right? So that is the case with civil and criminal law. Lastly, civil cases can be settled outside the court, right? So if there is a divorce case, maybe the couple has their own settlement outside the court, it's fine, it is not really hurting the whole society. But in case of a criminal case, you cannot have an out of court settlement, because if somebody has committed a huge crime against the community, that person is capable of committing more crimes in the society. So you don't encourage out of court settlement in that kind of a scenario. So now let us discuss the functions of judiciary in our society. We have discussed what is judiciary, what is it meant for, why is it supposed to be independent. So let us quickly look at its function. First is obviously dispute resolution. So in any kind of society, when different kinds of people live together, different communities live together, and people with different kind of powers live together, there is going to be conflict, there are going to be disputes. So to resolve all those disputes, we require judiciary. Then judicial review is another important function. As we discussed, that we need to put a check on the power of the executive and the legislature, so that the laws which are made are actually for the benefit of the whole society and not to strengthen the powers of the ruling government. So this is why judicial review is important, to keep a check on the powers of the ruling government or the state. Now, upholding the law and ensuring or enforcing fundamental rights. Now, fundamental rights are protecting the citizens against the power of the state, right? That is the main concept of fundamental rights, that it is empowering the citizens of a country, and it is the job of the judiciary to protect these fundamental rights of citizens. Fundamental rights, as we know, are the basic rights. They are very important for the growth and development of an individual, and they shall not be taken away by the state. Now, let's discuss about the Supreme Court, the apex court of India. Now, Supreme Court is located in New Delhi, right? We all know that. This is the picture of the Supreme Court. It is the apex court of India. It is the highest judicial authority in our country. It looks at both the civil and the criminal cases, right? And it is also responsible for interpreting the Indian Constitution. We already discussed that. Now let us discuss about the composition and who appoints the judges of the Supreme Court. Now the head judge is known as the CJI, Chief Justice of India. This person is appointed by the president. We will discuss more about him. But besides the CJI, there are 33 other judges in a Supreme Court, right? So 33 is the number. Besides the CJI, there are 33 other judges in a Supreme Court. All of these are appointed by the President of India. And as far as the CJI is concerned, this position is generally, if we talk about tradition, it is the senior most judge of the panel of the Supreme Court who gets this position. But this is a custom, this is a tradition, it is not mandated, it is not written in any of our laws or in the constitution, it is not written down. But yes, the custom is that the senior most judge becomes the Chief Justice of India. Now, what is the eligibility criteria of a judge in the Supreme Court? Now, that person should be a citizen of India, right? Obviously, you want only an Indian person, Indian citizen to be at such an important position. Then that person should have either a 5-year experience as a High Court judge or maybe a 10-year experience as a advocate in a High Court, right? It could be more than one High Courts, but total you should have experience of 10 years as an advocate. So, or maybe you are a distinguished jurist in the president's opinion, because it is the president who appoints the different judges. So if the president finds that maybe this person has maybe 3 years of experience in High Court as a High Court judge, but he feels that because that judge has given very important judgments, so the president can choose that person to serve as a Supreme Court judge, right? Now, talking about the term of a Supreme Court judge, the age for a Supreme Court judge is 65 years, right? You have to be 65 years and then only your term will end. It is not about 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. If you become a Supreme Court judge at 58, then you can serve till 65, not an issue. But the point is, many people, because it's a very higher position in the judicial system, so maybe you're already 63 when you become a judge, so you can serve till 65. So that is the scenario. The person can be removed as a Supreme Court judge. You need to have very serious charges against that person, and this process is known as impeachment. It goes on in the Parliament of India, where we see that both the houses are responsible for this, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, both the houses, and you need 2/3 majority of people, of the members of Parliament, to be present and voting there. Only then this process is carried on, and luckily we can say, unfortunately we can say that in India no such situation has arose till now. Our judicial system is very clean in that sense that there has been no occurrence of a successful impeachment procedure against any judge, right? So no judge has been removed by impeachment process. So now let us discuss the functions of the Supreme Court of India. So first we have original jurisdiction, which means all those cases which are coming directly under the Supreme Court of India. Now, these are mostly related to the federal structure of India. So, if there is any dispute between the center and the state, or center and more than one state, so 2 or 3 states, then that kind of a dispute is resolved by the Supreme Court. Or it could be the case that various states, 2 or more than 2 states, are having some kind of a conflict among each other. So that dispute is also resolved by the Supreme Court of India, right? Now then comes the appellate jurisdiction. It means that if a person is not satisfied with the decision of the High Court, that person can go and appeal to the Supreme Court, right? This is why we discussed earlier that our system is a very single integrated judicial system where High Court, Supreme Court and the subordinate courts are not working independently of each other. They all are co-dependent on each other. Another important function is that of writ jurisdiction. Basically, the Supreme Court can give orders. Writ simply means orders. So, Supreme Court can give orders if it feels that the fundamental rights of citizens are violated, right? So, it can issue writs if it feels that is happening. Next comes the advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Now, it may happen that the President of India may need advice of the Supreme Court on matters of public importance, right? So, the Supreme Court can give its advice to the President. But yes, it is only an advice. The President is not bound to follow that advice. The President is a very capable person and a very powerful person. So, the President may or may not listen to the advice given by the Supreme Court. Now, apart from all these functions, Supreme Court of India is known as the Court of Record. It is so because it keeps all the records of its previous judgments. Now, these judgments are very important for the lower courts. They treat these judgments almost as new law. Why does this happen? This happens because if you see, we need to ensure that there is consistency in the judicial process. Say a crime occurred 10 years ago and the judiciary gave a punishment, maybe 5 years of imprisonment in that particular case. If a similar case happens 10 years later, now it is important that the punishment is same as the previous case, right? As we understand, all cases are unique when it comes to judiciary, but if there is some kind of similarity in those two cases, then similar kind of punishment should be there. Right? This ensures that there is consistency in the judicial process, right? So this is why these records are very important. Now let us discuss about the next important level in the judicial system, and that is the High Courts. Now, High Courts, as we understand, they are the highest court of justice in a state of India, right? India currently has 25 High Courts. As we discussed earlier, some of Indian states have a common High Court while others have their own High Courts. Talking about the composition of a High Court, we see that there is a Chief Justice in every High Court. This is different from the Chief Justice of India who is there for the Supreme Court, but here we have the Chief Justice of that state. Apart from the Chief Justice, there are other judges in the High Court. This number is not fixed. It varies from one High Court to another, right? Because different states have different populations, so you want that number to be according to the population of that state. So different states can have different number of High Court judges. Now, the judges of the High Court are also appointed by the President of India, right? This is done in consultation with the Chief Justice of India and also the Chief Justice of that concerned High Court. And when it comes to the selection of the Chief Justice of that High Court, then it is again the Chief Justice of India and the Governor of that state who comes and decide who is going to be the Chief Justice, right? If we talk about the age eligibility, then it is the 62 years of age. So a High Court judge can serve till the age of 62 years. Talking about the eligibility criteria of a High Court judge, then yes, that person should be a citizen of India and that person should have served for about 10 years as a High Court advocate, right? So yes, the term is till 62 years as we discussed before. Now let us discuss about the functions and powers of the High Court. Now the High Court has three main functions. First is original jurisdiction. Now High Court is also responsible for the protection of fundamental rights of people. So yes, it can also issue writs to protect these rights. That comes under the original jurisdiction of this court. Then the appellate function. Now if somebody is not satisfied with the decision, the verdict of the subordinate court, any of the subordinate courts, that person can go and appeal to the High Court. So this is the appellate function of the High Court. And lastly, it is the supervisory jurisdiction, which means that the High Court of a state is the highest judicial power in that state. So all the courts, all the subordinate courts are administered under the High Court. So they all come under the supervision of the High Court. Now let's move to the third level of the Indian judicial system. These includes all the subordinate courts. Now there are different kinds of subordinate courts. District courts, revenue courts, metropolitan courts are some of the subordinate courts. So let's discuss a little bit about them. So the district court is the highest court of justice in a district. Now the district judge serves two purposes. When the district judge is handling the civil cases, he is known as the district judge. But when that person is handling the criminal cases, then that person is referred to as the sessions judge, right? Most of the civil cases are actually handled in the municipal court itself. Talking about the criminal cases, we have the district and sessions court. We also have the additional sessions judge and the court of the first class magistrate. There is also a second class magistrate depending on how many cases are there in that city. Talking about the big cities, the cities like Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai and Mumbai, they have the metropolitan magistrate, right? So there are different types of subordinate courts depending upon the various needs of different cities of India. Now there are also revenue courts. These revenue courts are responsible for handling cases related to land revenue mainly. The Board of Revenue is the apex court in this scenario in case of revenue courts, right? Commissioner Court, Court of Tehsildar and the Nayab Tehsildar are some of the courts under the revenue courts of India. And with that, we have discussed about the three levels of courts in India: the Supreme Court, High Court and the subordinate courts. Apart from this, we also have Lok Adalats. And Lok Adalat or People's Court is an alternative type of court. It is not a part of the formal judicial system. The idea behind these kind of courts is to resolve cases in a speedy way through mutual consent. So if there are some minor cases in a city or a village, then you can resolve these through Lok Adalats, right? Here the large expenditure of courts is not to be bared by the individuals, and with mutual consent they can resolve their conflicts. Normally some retired judges are part of these Lok Adalats, right? So it's a very nice system, but yes, it is not binding, because if you are getting a judgment from a Lok Adalat, then obviously you have the chance to appeal it to the formal judicial system. You need not be bound by the decision of the Lok Adalat. It is not final at all. Now let us move to the last topic of this chapter, and this is public interest litigation. Now before we discuss this topic, we understand that the judicial process can be very expensive and time taking, right? There are so many cases which are pending in our judicial system. For that we had the Lok Adalats which were trying to deliver quick justice. But sometimes because of the expenses involved in the judicial process, it is not convenient. It is not possible for a poor person, for a person who does not have the resources and the time to, fight for their own cause, to actually go and appeal to the courts. Now there are many matters of public importance which need to be which need to come forward in front of the courts so that the courts can give judgments to protect the rights of people, to protect the public interest. For such purpose, we have public interest litigation. Now here, the appeal is not necessarily made by the aggravated party. Aggravated party means those who are affected by this, those who are the victims of this problem. So, public interest litigation can be filed by any person, any citizen of India, maybe a social activist, maybe a person who is really concerned about the rights of other people, maybe some friend or relative of the victim. So it can be filed by any such person. Under this, matters of public importance like clean air, free and safe drinking water, sanitation, road safety, all these are brought in front of the courts, right? So it is an inexpensive way. It is a way to make judiciary reach to the last person in the society, because if somebody cannot come to the judiciary will come to that person, because India is committed to providing justice to everyone, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video lecture and understood that how Indian judiciary works, what are the objectives, what are the, you can say, principles behind which our judicial system works, and to what extent our judicial system can go to provide justice to everyone in the society, right? So we will meet again in the next video lecture. Thank you so much for watching this video.